And he's just snuck into the studio. It's the great Tim Montgomery. Welcome, Tim.
Well, you're lucky I'm here, actually, Kevin, because after certain events at Old Trafford over the weekend, I was worried.
Let's talk about it.
I was worrying what the conversation might be this evening,
Yes.
but perhaps...
I got a plaintive little WhatsApp voice note from this man here, a Man United fan, saying, "Oh, come on, United," after they equalised against Fulham. But that story wasn't to last very long, was it? Anyway, commiserations. I really do feel sorry for you. Couldn't care less.
Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Tim. Welcome. Have you seen Meghan's cooking show yet?
I haven't, no. I've been so full of Zelensky and Trump and Vance and all that. But that's a treat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not exactly been edifying, but if Meghan has come up with another one of her great television triumphs, I shall enjoy watching it being picked apart by the critics.
I started the day having to watch it. I watched about...
Was it as bad as everyone seems to think it was?
Oh my God. I mean, boring doesn't even begin to cover it. And I'm not saying that lightly. It was strikingly, stunningly dull. Yeah. But as I just said, in an hour's time, we'll get the verdict of her brother, Thomas Markle Jr., who sort of shares my reservations.
I did see a clip, and I don't know whether it was from the series, but of Harry sort of burying his head in his hands.
Yeah, he makes an appearance right towards the end of the series. In episode 2, we first hear his voice. Yeah. But to be fair, he's not trying to steal the limelight from his wife in this one. Perhaps
probably wants to get away from the car crash.
Yeah, exactly. Arguably, this is slightly more important. Let's talk about the events that have superseded that extraordinary bust-up in the White House on Friday. I mean, the saga continues apace. Now, it looks as if, I mean, there's so many aspects to discuss. First of all, let's discuss what looks like the latest developments, and that is that Zelensky in the past couple of hours has basically said, "Oh, I regret what happened. I'm sorry about that. I'm reaching out to the White House. I still want to do this mineral deal." Now, I think it's arguable that both sides could deliver an apology if they wanted. That meeting didn't go well, but Zelensky can't afford to fall out with the White House, and we're seeing those results now. He's buckling. He's basically saying, "What do you need, Donald? What do you want? I'm here to give it to you." Yeah.
I can't remember the exact quote, Kevin, but during the Second World War, when Churchill and Britain really needed American help, Churchill said something, "I studied how to woo Roosevelt more than I've studied any woman I most wanted to sort of, hook up with." He didn't use those terms, but that was basically what he was, He studied Roosevelt because it so mattered to Britain in the Second World War that we had America's economic and eventually support. Yeah. And so Zelensky, there's fault on both sides for what happened on Friday. Yeah. But Zelensky really messed up that meeting. He really needed America to sign that mineral deal, and he provoked. Yeah. And particularly if you watch the whole of the broadcast, not just the bit that's been most on TV and radio. Yes. Actually, he was provoking Donald Trump all the way through, actually, in various ways, and eventually it was J.D. Vance that snapped. But this statement today, it has a lot of... I don't know what you felt about it. I felt like the British Foreign Office might have been slightly involved in this as well. It was very well written. And, it didn't
in that case, the British Foreign Office can't have been involved.
You cynic.
You can rule them out.
It didn't quite apologise, but it definitely used that word regrettable. And I think that's the nearest you'll get Zelensky for his sake of his own national pride to admit it. But I would be very surprised if this statement wasn't already agreed with the White House. Basically, if it wasn't our Foreign Office directly involved, someone would have said to the White House, "This is what we're thinking of issuing. Is this enough?" Yes. And my prediction, firm prediction, I made this on a podcast I'm part of earlier today, is in 2 or 3 weeks' time, perhaps sooner, a deal will be signed between Ukraine and America on these minerals. And once you have American economic interests, as important as access to these minerals represent for America, once you have those American economic interests established in Ukraine, there will be an implicit security guarantee.
They'll have skin in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they'll protect Ukraine, and Putin will know it. And so you have to remember that a lot of people seem to think that this mineral deal has just cropped up in the last month or so. It's actually Zelensky's been dangling it in front of America for a long time now.
Yeah.
He's always wanted this. And I think you're right. I think he's going to get it, and Trump's going to get what he wanted. And I think we've wasted a lot of time worrying about the manners that's shown by Trump and Vance, and whether or not they bully. I said this at the weekend on the tweet. You can't bully a man like Zelensky. Zelensky is a grown-up who has led his country through a hellish war for 3 years. Let's not patronise him by saying he was bullied. Just because he's smaller physically than those two guys in the Oval Office, he was not bullied. He is not he's not a victim. Let's get that straight. Now, they behaved in a way that Europeans found unpalatable, but I think we're going to have to get used to this. And developments today reveal that maybe it was staged, maybe it went over the top, but Trump is getting exactly what he wanted, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I slightly, I don't know about you in the morning now, Kevin, I slightly hesitate to turn on the radio to find out what's gone on overnight.
The United results says
well, particularly with the way, I'm not just talking about the football. But no, well, State of the Union is the big set-piece speech by the President every year to the American Joint Houses of Congress. That will be tonight. I'm hoping I'm very well going to get bad stuff from Trump on tariffs. I don't understand what he's doing against Canada. That's another subject. But on Ukraine, hopefully he can really welcome this statement, and we can begin to get past the extraordinary kerfuffle of recent times. I don't know how you felt about it and how listeners feel about it, but it's kind of exhausting, isn't it? The swings, we're not able even to talk about anything else. It's all this Ukraine, Trump, Zelensky. It's just absolutely dominant.
It is, and as extraordinary scenes in the Oval Office on Friday, and I think it's an exaggeration to call it all according to a plan. I don't think that Trump and Vance wanted it to explode that much, but as they say in reality TV, it is what it is. And we've now, this is just breaking, 3 sources have confirmed to Reuters that this mineral deal will definitely be signed, and that means that all the fears about America completely pulling out are now null and void. So huge. America is still involved and will continue to be involved. But earlier today, J.D. Vance, by the way, the one thing I'd say about J.D. Vance, I like Vance. I think he's a very clever man, and he's the first... He
follows me on Twitter, so I think he's a man of great wisdom.
He's a man of discernment. But seriously, he is the first American vice president that anyone ever noticed. So, and I think if Trump goes on like this, maintaining this level of popularity, we're looking at the next president there, so let's not be too disparaging about Mr. Vance.
He does need to calm down a bit, though. I don't know if we're going to come on to his remarks about
what we're going to
say.
That's exactly what we're going to see now. He gave an interview to Fox News earlier today, and this has annoyed a lot of people in this country. See if you can work out why.
If you want real security guarantees, if you want to actually ensure that Vladimir Putin does not invade Ukraine again, the very best security guarantee is to give Americans economic upside in the future of Ukraine. That is a way better security guarantee than 20,000 troops from some random country that hasn't fought a war in 30 or 40 years.
How dare he? How dare he? Of course, a lot of people are saying that's a reference to Great Britain. I mean, that's a sort of dubious... It depends how you define a war. I mean, we were in Iraq, of course, side by side with our American allies. And, we were peacekeeping, which is a bit of a misnomer. We were fighting like terriers in Afghanistan, keeping the peace for many years. So to say that we are not experiencing combat is a bit much, but... Vance has subsequently said, I didn't necessarily mean Britain, and that's because I think he realises he slightly overspoke there. But what I...
Overspoke, that's a lovely expression.
Yes. Misspoke. Overspoke. I just invented something. I rather like that. Misspoke, shall we say. But what I do think about that little statement from Vance is it does actually reveal what the American leaders, Trump and Vance, really think about Starmer. Now, Starmer strutting around on the bridge between Trump and Europe and America must stay. Well, while he's saying America must stay involved, almost 5 minutes later, Trump announces, I'm pulling all military aid from Ukraine. So I believe that Trump and Vance think that Keir Starmer is the same as all the rest of the European leaders, woke, weak, dysfunctional, ineffective, not very competent either. So this idea, the way he's positioned himself as this sort of colossus bestriding the world stage, it's just ridiculous. They're not listening to him. They've got what they caused on Friday, right?
I'm going to push back against you a bit on this one, I'm afraid, Kevin. No, Keir Starmer isn't a colossus. I agree with you on that. You get no quarrel from me on that. That would be
You'll accept that.
Yeah, that would be an over. What's it? An overspeak.
Don't overspeak.
An overspeak on my part.
Yeah.
But no, I think Keir Starmer's played it like an adult. Actually, I really do. Look, I'm not his political colour at all, and if he thinks any amount of international sure-footedness will rescue him from his massive domestic failure, he's wrong. But there's too many people, too many European leaders who rush to Twitter, rush to condemn Trump, rush to condemn Vance. And actually, what I think Keir Starmer's been trying to do is saying, let's hold this, let's keep steady heads, and let's sign this deal with Ukraine. And he's, and he almost got there. The White House, I watched the whole conversation in the Oval Office, and if it hadn't been for that flare-up towards the end of their time, I think the deal would have been signed last week. Yeah, exactly. And in that context, Keir Starmer's preparatory meeting the previous day might have looked a lot wiser than it does just at the moment.
Here's J.D. Vance talking about the Europeans and indeed Britain.
I think our European friends, frankly, are being really, they're doing a disservice to the Ukrainians because their own populations are saying, we're not going to fund this war indefinitely. The American people are saying, we don't want to fund the war indefinitely. So the only thing that is in the best interest of America, of Russia, of Ukraine, and of Europe is to bring this thing to a close. What happened, Sean, is you have Zelensky. He goes to Europe, and a lot of our European friends puff him up. They say, you're a freedom fighter. You need to keep fighting forever. Well, fighting forever with what? With whose money, with whose ammunition, and with whose lives? The president is actually taking a much more realistic perspective and saying, this can't go on forever. We can't fund this thing forever. The Ukrainians can't fight forever. So let's bring this thing to a peaceful settlement.
And, whatever you think about this, and I must say, I'm on Trump and Vance's side. Let's bring this to an end if we can. But whatever you think, there is a momentum here. This is going to happen. You can feel it. So we might as well get real. There is no point in the Macron sort of Schultz line, this war must go on forever. We must carry on supporting Ukraine. Some people may feel that's the right thing to do, but it isn't going to last because, as Starmer has implicitly made it clear, if you haven't got American backing, this cannot carry on. And if we don't go along with Trump's plans for peace, his drive for peace, America will pull out and we won't be able to sustain that war. So our best bet is to go along with the Americans, right?
100%. I don't know if you've ever read Anthony Beevor's Stalingrad.
Yes, I have, yeah.
One of the most extraordinary books on the Second World War. I was rereading it recently for various reasons. And, I could only read a few pages at a time because the horror of warfare. And people can criticise Donald Trump for lots of reasons, and I'm prepared to join in some of those criticisms. But one thing I think he genuinely has a feeling for is his anti-war.
He hates war.
He hates war. And, the death toll numbers are contested. But, some say that 140,000, 160,000 Russian young people have died in this war. Similar numbers in Ukraine. So many more people injured. We are on our own continent seeing a war of horrific proportions, and for no real reason, no real gain. It's now in a quagmire, First World War trench situation. And I'm afraid if Kamala Harris had been elected US president, I think there would have been a pressure on her as the first woman president to show that she was macho and all the rest. We would have potentially been in a forever war situation. And Donald Trump, however clumsily some people might think he's tried to end this war, he is trying to end this war. And if that stops another 160,000 young Europeans dying, good. Because it needs to. Now,
you're guilty of under-exaggeration there. I'm inventing all sorts of new phrases.
What by under?
It's near enough a million. Near enough a million young men have died.
Have died, not just injured.
Near enough a million young men have died in horrific. We don't know exactly, but it's considerably more than you suggested.
More than 350,000.
And if we carry on like this, I mean, there has been a kind of way of thinking in Europe, and as you say, on the part of Biden and Harris and our sort of left-leaning politicians, that somehow or other this was sort of totemic and we have to carry on, we must support Ukraine. Well, Donald Trump's driven a truck through that. He is going to drive for peace, and I think all of Europe and Zelensky now accept they've got to go along with it. And I cannot, in my heart of hearts, think that is a bad thing.
No. And Russia, you may be right about the death toll numbers. Kevin.
Send my producer telling me.
Okay,
that. If it's injured too. If it's wrong, it's her fault.
Yeah, I thought that was deaths and injuries, but I may be wrong. It's far too many. What we can agree, it's far too many. But I've lost my thought.
And also don't forget, this is the meat grinder, isn't it? These are horrific.
They're horrific numbers. Yeah, but I got my point again now. The point was, Russia hasn't won this war. The idea that if there's any peace settlement out, Russia's won. It's lost 160,000 or 500,000, however many young men it is, far too many. They've been humbled, really, in the eyes of the world. They thought they would be in Kyiv in a week. Yeah. They never got close to Kyiv.
Yeah.
And so Russia will not have won this war, whatever happens from now on.
And when the peace is made, when there's a peace deal, I'm going to get up a petition to restore Zelensky's name to having one Y at the end of it. Where did the extra Y suddenly turn up? It's always bloody Sky News, isn't it? There's someone works at Sky News who spends all their time looking for alternative spellings to impose on an increasingly bemused audience. But suddenly two Ys. But on this show, he's got one Y.
We'll always start talking about Peking again as well.
Yeah, you're Peking at Bombay. You know, when they change the name of cities around the world, for ethnic reasons, it's like, why do you only do it to some cities?
Yeah. I think we know the reason why.
Yeah, but weird stuff.